What happens when you speak God's promises out aloud? It was quite powerful. What happens is that your perspective changes. It changes into a heavenly perspective. Like if your house is in confusion and in chaos and you begin to declare peace, I declare the peace of God over my house. I declare the peace of God over my mind, because your mind could be in turmoil. You could be you could be underneath a lot of stress and underneath a lot of pressure. But if you begin to confess and begin to speak out the promises of God, speak out the word of God over your life, what happens is that the atmosphere changes and you begin to bring down, or drag down the presence of God into your house or into that vicinity, just by confessing and speaking out the promises of God and confessing them out aloud. See, what happens is that the more what you're confessing, when you confess the word, it begins to transform your mind. It begins to change your perspective, change your outlook, change the way you see things. So your back can be up against the wall and you could be underneath a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. When you begin to declare the peace of God, the goodness of God, the promises of God, the kindness of God, the mercy of God, the grace of God, the love of God, you begin to declare that, speak it out aloud. What happens is that it begins to shift your perspective. It begins to shift your outlook. You begin to see things differently. Why? Because when you start to confess those words, it brings the presence of God into where you are. It brings the presence in. And when the presence of God comes into you, into your vicinity, into wherever you are, when the atmosphere is changed, it begins to change you. And the thing is, what happens is that the devil wants you to confess evil, because the enemy knows that if you confess evil and you confess doubt, you confess these kinds of horrible negative words, it's going to change your perspective and change your outlook also. It's going to bring in the presence of evil spirits, and they're going to start to bring you down even further. This is the reason why when things is going crazy, let's start declaring the word, declaring the promises of God, so that your mindset will change, your outlook will change, and your perspective will change onto a godly one, and you'll receive strength, energy, power, and fire.